A young woman named Cephasus gave birth to a little boy who was unbelievably attractive to everyone that set their eyes on him. When the boy turned 16, he had a flock of men and women that had already fallen in love, but because he was so young, nobody bothered getting too close to him. One day, the boy happened to be chasing a deer when there was a strange female watching him. Now, there were two unusual qualities about this woman. One, she could not stay silent when someone else speaks, and two, she could not be the first to speak. This woman's name was Echo. Like everyone, Echo fell in love with the boy at first sight and desired him more than anything else. She wanted to approach him, but couldn't because she can only answer after someone else speaks. She continued to follow him around until one day the boy was lost in the woods and could not find his friends. He shouted out,
"Is anyone here?"
And Echo immediately responded, finally revealing herself. She used this opportunity to express her love for the boy, but he promptly rejected her and ran away. Echo was heartbroken and hid in the bushes, being weighed down by shame. Even still, she loved him, and the pain of being rejected only grew. It turns out the boy had broken the hearts of many other people, but one day he went too far. A man who was the victim of his dismissal looked to the heavens and prayed that one day he would fall in love with somebody and be unable to gain their love. His prayer was granted, and after becoming weary from a long day of hunting, the boy rested at a river to quench his thirst. As he was drinking, he became captivated by the reflection he saw in the water. He fell in love with himself and was sat still like a statue. His gaze was fixed on the person in the pool, but every time he reached out the reflection, it would disappear. This only furthered his desire. For some time, he tried and tried again, but alas, he was filled with the pain he had caused so many others and died by the river. The name of the boy was Narcissus. Seduction is a powerful tool, and by understanding how it works, you can persuade others without offending them and without using force. The foundation for any type of seduction is that you have to know what is seductive about yourself and what's going to bring down your target's defense. As the title says, we're going to be focusing on a type of seducer known as the coquette. Coquettes are known to be teases, and they work their magic by arousing their target's desires and then keeping them coming back for more and more. This is what makes the coquette so powerful. Many people think that seduction comes down to looks, but that's actually not true. Cleopatra, who is arguably the queen of seduction, was pretty average looking. Now, the first thing you need to do as a coquette is excite your target. This requires that you already know what your target wants or likes, and that type of attraction can come in many forms. In the French novel Marianne will go to church with her hair slightly undone, and then in the middle of service, she would notice this and reach up to fix it. While reaching up to fix it, she would expose her bare arms, and all the guys would try and look at her. Now, that isn't a big deal today, but you can imagine 100 years ago, that was something to look at. With this story, I also want to bring up the importance of being indirect. Flirting is obvious and gives away your intentions too early. So with a little bit of subtlety, you can cause ambiguity, which can create confusion, frustration for whoever you're trying to seduce. You may think that these emotions are bad, but in seduction, this is what keeps them coming back to you. Now, to properly manage these emotions, you need to withhold satisfaction. This is the signature quality of the coquette, and it's one thing that a lot of people struggle with. We tend to think that by constantly telling someone we like them or endlessly giving them attention will result in them liking us. But the truth is, this shows neediness, which is very unseductive. When people are satisfied, they will move on. If you don't believe me, think about the way that most YouTube videos, including this one, are set up. If I told you all 5 secrets in the beginning of the video, you would have been satisfied and wouldn't have had a reason to keep watching. The fact that you, the viewer, likely don't know all 5 secrets gives me the chance to keep you engaged. Now I can try and spread them out in the hopes that you end up watching the whole video. For a long time, withholding satisfaction is a tool women can use to get some power in a world dominated by men. They would do this by withdrawing sexual favors. This is a really general example and obviously doesn't happen all the time, but if a woman were to satisfy a man upon meeting for the first time, he'd probably leave right after he hits. But instead, that woman can play on the man's desire to have her to get what she wants. This could be texting someone back, wanting to praise somebody for how great they are, or telling you the other 3 secrets so I don't have to spend all this time working on the rest of the video. What makes this so difficult is that most of the time you're delaying something that you want to do too. It is challenging, but the next thing you need to do after withholding satisfaction is create distance. There is no deep meaning to this. You need to physically create distance. The first thought is that distance would make people feel angry, but actually it's more likely to make them feel insecure. When someone creates space in between you and them, you start to think, maybe they don't like me or they're just not interested anymore. And then when they give you the tiniest bit of attention, you completely give in because you want to feel like you are desirable. With this emotional withdrawal, people will begin to dream up all sorts of things about you in their imagination. The next thing you need to understand to effectively be a coquette is narcissism. I know this word gets a bad rep, but we are all narcissistic in some way. There's a normal level of narcissism, and then there's staring at your own reflection in the water. You need to have high self-esteem because people can unconsciously read your confidence levels, and low self-esteem repels people. At the same time, you can't be completely self-absorbed because that is also not attractive. The goal is to seem self-sufficient, and if all you do is talk about yourself, then you just seem insecure. Sigmund Freud said that as children, we had our own narcissistic phase where we found pleasure in ourselves. People who don't need other people and can be satisfied with themselves remind us of this childhood version of us, and we become attracted to them because we wish to return to that stage of our lives. Freud characterized the narcissistic woman, or the woman who's overly obsessed with how she looks. A woman like this reminds a man of that part of his childhood, and he becomes a little bit envious. But he is also challenged by her independence, and he wants to be the one to make her dependent on him. The man will end up giving all his attention to the woman in the hopes of getting her love in return, but he will fail because the narcissistic woman is not emotionally needy. Before we get into the last secret, if you are getting some value out of this content, please make sure to like and subscribe. I really do appreciate it. The last thing that a coquette does is rid themselves of any jealousy. Coquettes are not naturally jealous people, but they know how to incite jealousy in other people. If people can see that you're jealous, it'll just break the spell that you worked so hard to put up. You are no longer this self-sufficient person who's satisfied with themselves. You're just like everybody else. If you pay attention to someone else rather than your target, you can start to create that jealous feeling. Once again, it's important that this isn't done too obviously as to reveal your intentions, because at that point, you'll just look like an asshole. It's best to just think of it as using a third party to start competition. That is the last of the 5 qualities that make up a coquette. You can go a lot more in depth with this, which I did not do here, but if you are interested, check out The Art of Seduction by Robert Greene. He is a phenomenal author, and if you want to know if his books are right for you, check out this video right here. Thank you for watching, drink your water, and take care.